Good morning, everybody. Let's start with our webinar. Topic for today is NIS2 compliance for 2026. And we wanted to share some insights with you that we consider what matters now. So over the next 45 minutes, we're going to give you some insights on let's say how what we see as important on the NIS2 introduction, NIS2 directive in the European Union, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. So you can use the Slido button that you should see in your WebEx screen, and so I hope it's going to be an interactive session through that. Usually that works quite fine. So just introducing myself, Ulrich Brüll. I'm the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer for Conscia in Germany. That means I take care of our internal information security topics a lot, do the compliance management, help, let's say, make the certifications we do in Germany for TISAX and ISO 27001, for example. And but apart from that, I'm also working with our customers as a security advisor. And that's a quick introduction from my end. And with me today is Christina. But Christina, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Christina Meyerhöfer. I'm the marketing manager in Conscia Germany, and I'll be your co-host for today.
Well, thanks a lot. So we start, with the message from our sponsor, like you would hear it in the podcast usually. Just for those who maybe don't know Conscia yet, just a brief introduction who we are. Conscia is a European IT service and solution provider. And some of you may have recognized that beautiful landscape here on that picture. That's Copenhagen, and that's where our headquarters is. So that's where Conscia originally comes from, and we are basically specialized in cybersecurity, networking, observability, and hybrid cloud solution and services. And we really like to work with our customers when it becomes complex, critical, mission critical. And and we help our customers to enable digitalization in critical environments. So we have here a brief overview of the sectors, branches we work in, like finance, transport, logistics, healthcare, and manufacturing. So everywhere where it becomes mission critical, and that's where our engineers like to be, and our consultants. And so we are really tech expertise powerhouse, and we like to present or support our customers with these critical topics. Just a quick overview on our services itself. So we have a broad range of cybersecurity services like managed detection and response from our security operations center. We have quite an extensive portfolio of offensive security services and also digital forensics and incident response. So, and that is, let's say, accompanied by other services, for example, in hybrid cloud, where we offer managed infrastructure as a services and observability to monitor and run this services on a high availability level. And all this is based on our networking infrastructure foundation, where we offer also a range of managed network services. For those who are not ready yet to outsource or outtask the full operations, we can support your operations with Conscia Care and tools we have developed for like CNS, CSA. These are tools we use to support our customers. But that gives you a brief overview on the services Conscia is delivering. And a few facts about us. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we're headquartered in Copenhagen, Denmark, but we are now spread all over Europe. Christina and myself, we are from Germany, and we have colleagues, so 1,700 colleagues in 11 European countries. And we are working hard to reach the 1 billion of revenue. Currently, we're 764, but we do this both organically and inorganically, growth, meaning through further mergers and acquisitions. So basically, end of the commercial break, but of course important that you have an overview who are the people that talk to you for the next minutes. Let's jump into the topic. So there may be one or the other people in our audience that also consider this questions. Why do we need all this? Why do we need NIS2? And I like to answer that question. I like to use this risk barometer, which is published by the Allianz insurance company every year, and that is the 2026 version of it. And I like it because it's not so Conscia, as you have understood, is a technical company. So we usually deal with technical partners, and we're deep down in IT, but this is no technical survey. This is done by business decision makers. So it's roughly 4,000 or no 3,338 to be precise. People globally have been asked, like CEOs, CFOs, risk managers, and so it's not a technical feedback. So like, the tech guys would like to show themselves how important they feel. And no, it's really a business view. And the 5th year in a row, cybersecurity, the risk of cyber incidents ranks on #1. And that, I think, confirms that in the 5th year in a row, the biggest threat to global businesses is considered to be cyber incidents, outranking, for example, natural disasters, macroeconomic volatility, or political risks. Pandemics is not even under the top 10 anymore after Corona. Of course, that has been in the top 3, but it has been moved out. And if you look at #3, so of course, very interesting. The top entry this year is artificial intelligence on #2. I could make a whole webinar just on this topic, but I won't do it because today it's NIS2. But if we look at #3, business interruption, of course, that's directly linked with cyber incidents. And also the compliance pressure on #4, changes in legislation and regulation. That is exactly what we are talking today about. So to answer the question why, so the EU did not create NIS2 to increase bureaucracy and add more formality to our processes, even if that is a conclusion of many of the activities happened. But they did it because the data shows that voluntary cybersecurity standards have failed so far to protect European economy from its biggest threats, and that's why you post a law. So we are now the companies affected by NIS2 are obliged to perform cybersecurity measurements or measures, and if they don't do, it's like you cross a right traffic light, so you get fined and you have broken the law, to put it like that. And that's basically the reason why. When I prepared for this webinar today, Christina, she sent me a list of the registrants for the webinar today, and despite a quite significant number of registrants, it was really from Conscia, from all the Conscia countries I showed you earlier. And then it really became clear to me, NIS2 is really a European topic. That is really something that we should, also consider as such. And so we have, for example, airport operators from Norway in the audience, healthcare providers from Ireland or Netherlands, industry, manufacturing industry, or municipalities from Sweden and Germany. And here you can see it's relevant for all these different entities, and for Conscia as a pan-European IT service provider, I think we are really at the heart of this NIS2 directive, because we basically link all these services with each other, if they're not already linked by direct supply chains. But that led me to that statement that you see on the bottom of that slide, which says under NIS2 we no longer protect perimeters, we protect the European supply chain. You can challenge me on that statement, but that's the view I got, because really the times that we look into sector-specific security standards and we try to solve or protect our perimeter with a firewall or maybe in our WAN environment, but we see ourselves as an isolated island in this IT world. That's definitely done, or that those times are over. And now we have really to consider how we protect this European supply chain. So in that terms, I think NIS2 is quite a modern law, a state-of-the-art law, although it has its challenges, which we discuss a bit later. But I think the intention of the law, that's pretty well, and it reflects the state of our current economy, especially in Europe. So what is it about? So we didn't want to do a basic NIS2 webinar, so we just go briefly on the fundamentals on what the NIS2 directive basically means. We wanted to more focus on what matters, meaning what to do now and what are measures or activities that we do at Conscia, and it might be maybe an idea or inspiration for you to do that on your own, or to show you how Conscia can, of course, also help you, support you to transform this NIS2 directive into operations. But this slide gives a brief or summary on what are the core components of the NIS2 directive. Of course, with a pan-European audience in this call or in this webinar, are really focused on what is harmonized security baseline. Each country, each of the 27 countries have their individual national law, and there are flavors and variations to it. But the points on that slide, that's basically the same for every European country. So we start with the scope applicability. So the critical infrastructures now are considered much broader. So in the past, it was really like energy or health, and with these sector-specific views. Now it has a cross-sector view, and it includes 18 critical sectors, and digital infrastructure is one of the ones that are impacted most, but also public administration and more. Each entity or each company or organization is classified in two classes of entities. There are the essential entities, which are the large enterprises in the highly critical sectors. So they have two appendices of the NIS2 directive with the critical sectors. And if you are in a highly critical sector and your company size is above a certain cap rule, like 50 employees or larger than 10 million turnover, then you're considered to be an essential entity. Then there are the important entities, such as medium and large enterprises in the other critical sectors. So basically, that's it. So you can be an essential entity or an important entity if you're affected, or you're not affected by the NIS2 in a direct way. There are zero threshold exceptions, like digital infrastructure. So if there are smaller DNS cloud providers that have some critical services which are defined, they are regulated irrespective of their size. Because it could be that a DNS provider, for example, even if there are just 10 people, they have such a critical service in their country, maybe if they fail, their service fails, that could have a serious impact. So that the regulation tries to cover with this zero threshold exceptions. Also, public administration can be regulated by irrespective of size, but this really depends on the national laws. So the European Union has decided, okay, that's something each country can decide on their own. If they have, for example, public communities, city governments, part of the affected NIS2 entities, so that's not managed on this European level. What are the core requirements? So there is a broad risk management catalog in NIS2. So you have the risk management part, which means implementation of normative InfoSec policies. Normative in that case means, well, you have to orientate or look after certain standards. You shouldn't make up your control sets on your own. And I think probably one of the most important aspects of the whole NIS2 is it's a so-called all hazards approach, which means, I'll translate it into words I can better understand, NIS2 pushes for enterprise resilience. It means it covers the whole organization as such. If you're a bit familiar with the critical infrastructure regulations, for example, in Germany, we have a special law for kritis, which means critical infrastructures. They're usually, and then you have sector-specific security standards, and usually they scope on the availability of the critical service. In German, we call this Verfügbarkeit der kritischen Dienstleistung. And that really, for a hospital, that means, okay, they need to be able to make operations and make patient care, but it does not care on if the finance department is up and running, if they can manage their payments or as such. And that changes with NIS2. NIS2 really covers all the aspects, and they call it all hazards approach. That's a term we use in information security, or better understand enterprise resilience. Also, if we, and that follows everything that what follows that it's the leading, let's say, goal of enterprise resilience, meaning business continuity means looking at the complete organization, not only at the IT side where you have IT backup and disaster recovery, but it's a full business continuity approach you need to implement here for the whole organization. Same also with supply chain security. That of course reflects the idea that you're not on your own, you're depending on IT service providers, on whatever, you have critical services that you need, that your organization keeps up and running, and you need to secure this individual supply chain for every organization. That is one of the major changes or major impacts it has on all the affected entities under NIS2. For those who know DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act, that is basically for the finance industry, and they don't fall under NIS2, they fall under DORA. For them, this is already, they have to do this for years. For example, supply chain security, and with NIS2, it comes now basically to the rest of the economy, not just for the banking. Then you have quite some rules and requirements for cyber hygiene, like mandatory multi-factor authentication, cryptography, encryption, zero trust. It means continuous authentication, identity-based security is a must-have under law now for the affected organizations. And what that means, I show you in a bit. And maybe one last point to mention here is the effectiveness tracking. So it's so this is not, NIS2 is not something which you can comply with and you get a nice certificate at the end. You say, oh, I'm NIS2 compliant, and all boxes are ticked. That doesn't work like this, because you have to show effectiveness, and there are certain ways to prove that you have controls implemented, but they also don't work every other day, but they have to work every day, every minute, so for 100% of the time. So and you need to show that, and that means it's an ongoing process, and it's more like an immune system rather than having a certificate and then all is good, and we don't need to take care anymore. And the third part that is really substantial in NIS2 and what really has substantial impact on the organization is the governance and enforcement part. So there's a strict incident reporting that is the same for all EU countries, mandatory notification within 24 hours, 72 hours, 30 days, so 24 hours for the first incident notification to your national CSIRT. And in 72 hours, you need to have a follow-up report, and after 30 days, you need to deliver a closing report. And if you don't fulfill these requirements, there are substantial fines and sanctions, and there are, let's say, a bit like the GDPR fines. So it's really a percentage of the global revenue and it's substantial. It's really a sanction regime they implement here that is quite hurtful if companies don't met with it. Another topic is the management liability. That is now C-level, the top management of each organization is personally liable for non-compliance. That is quite a hard take on this, but this really means the C-level, they must pay with their private wealth, basically, or have a good insurance that if they don't meet with the requirements that are that you see here in the middle. So yeah, just to give that is basically content-wise what we're talking about. And in the next minutes, I'm going to show you show you our take on it. What's the implementation status? So in March 2026, so there's a nice implementation tracker that is offered by Bird & Bird, a well-known legal counsel company in Europe. And you can see that, even it was planned as a harmonized European law. We are still in a kind of patchwork situation, in a fragmented landscape, so different countries have different timelines. I can speak for Germany, for example. So that it was planned that all the countries had to implement their national law by end of 2024. But at that time, our parliament in Germany just broke up and we went into a re-election. So we had no working government at that time. So Germany was a year later. I guess similar things happen in other countries too. So, but in Germany, it's active now since the 6th of December, 2025. And you see the vast majority is green. So they have adopted the national implementing acts. A few of them still in yellow, where the proposal are still discussed and not finalized yet. And then we have special situations for those countries that are in red, like Norway and Iceland, because those are not in the European Union. They belong to the EEA. It's the European Economic Area, and they have to run through a special forum, the EEA. Forum, whatever. I'm not the expert, sorry for that, but it needs to pass there before they can start implementing that in their international laws. So as usual in Europe, quite a complex situation, but just one thing I wanted to mention with this slide. Please remember, even if you're maybe in a country where that is still yellow or red, but if you have customers or partners that work in the countries that are green, they might come to you with these and asking for you the elevated security standards, because they have to fulfill already they must secure their supply chain already. And so indirectly, you may be already affected. And this whole supply chain domino effect we discuss anyway a bit later, but that's where the status is. So we prepared to make this a bit more interactive. We prepared a few Slido, so some surveys, and we would like to show you the first now. So Christina, if you could start Slido.
Yes, Slido is started. Some have already.
Okay. And we would like to get your feedback. So question is, regardless of your own country status on this map, have you already received NIS2 compliance demands or new SLAs from customers and partners? Or if you are basically an end customer, have you sent them to your suppliers? And we just would like to get a bit of feedback on are you already feeling the pressure or not yet, but you're expecting it. And that's give you a moment to get your feedback. I use the time to have a short break, and maybe we can. But interesting. So 20%, as I can see it, already faced the pressure? The majority, Christina, if I'm not mistaken, is not yet, but we're preparing
Yes.
for it. Good.
Almost half of all answers are saying not yet, but
All
it
right.
keeps changing. Very interesting to see.
All right. Cool. So majority not yet, but we are preparing for it. Glad we talked today. So then we can show you where on the one point or other Conscia may support you. Let's jump to the next slide. And yeah, we go to the risk management catalog. So I don't want to go, we could make a series of webinars just for that. Yeah, I don't want to yeah, bother you with that now, but just for a quick overview, that is the top level mandatory areas. It's not a catalog per se, but it's a high level area, and then you must use basically standards like ISO 27001 or whatever to set up your control systems. But there are, as I already mentioned, some really big topics on that list, like the business continuity management or supply chain security, and that for most companies is something which they have not covered yet in great detail. Of course, everyone has a backup, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's really aligned with your business requirements, and it's a business continuity management as well as it's demanded by the industry. Also, supply chain security means comprehensive consideration of cybersecurity risks, and the problem is the assessment of security of external service providers, suppliers, and products. And that is, of course, also a new challenge for a lot of companies, because we are, like we were also in Conscia at the beginning. I mean, I at Conscia Germany, and we used to work with DORA compliant or DORA relevant finance customers already for a few years. So we are used to do supply chain security management, and we have to prove it. But for those who were mostly outside of the of that finance business, for them it may be a very new topic. And so we prepared another Slido. So I don't want to. We picked a few of these risk management initiatives, and we'll explain them in the next section. But we prepared another Slidos, and if we would like to get your feedback, looking at these 10 mandatory areas, which one represents the biggest headache or blind spot for your organization right now? Is it more the is it the supply chain and vendor security? Is it the incident handling, business continuity, normative policies, or the cyber hygiene and access control? And that is pretty much what I expected, that the supply chain and vendor security is probably the biggest blind spot for most. Very interesting. So thanks a lot for your feedback. So what to do now, basically? What is a good path to reach NIS2 compliance? So there's no one size fits all rule. So it's not a simple or single checklist. So Article 21, that 10-point catalog we just saw, basically is the baseline for everyone, but it depends on which industry you're in. So for example, if I look at our own industry for Conscia, we follow this digital infrastructure path, and we have to use and that's quite a strict one. We have to use the EU implementing regulation or implementing act, because there's a set catalog of let's say controls already in part of the annex of this NIS2 regulation that we have to follow. And for those that are in critical sectors, they have to use the ones I already mentioned, the sector-specific regulations and guidelines. and they are more tailored to special industry risks. So they have to use, or they can use these. It's not a must. You're not obliged to do, at least in Germany, it's not the case. And basically for the broader economy, you should go for well-known or best practices, state-of-the-art, such as the ISO 20001 or TISAX standards at that time. Again, very important to understand is that the ultimate goal, let's say, to reach the NIS2 compliance is not a certificate on the wall. It's basically, it's demonstrable resilience. It's keeping executives out of personal liability and securing your right to do business in the European supply chain. And this is something we have to continuously prove, and it cannot be done by a single certification. But especially these are the ways that you should be taking or considering on how to reach that NIS2 compliance. But you have to be a bit careful. So because some of you may think, oh, well, we have an ISO 27001 certification. We are all set. You have to be careful with that because, and on that slide, I, let's say, showed a bit where are the gaps between maybe a compliance goal you reach today and to what NIS2 really demands from you. For example, when you do ISO 27001 certification, well, I call it here cherry picking, but it's a more professional term would be more maybe scoping. So a lot of companies say, okay, we don't certify the full organization, but we do it on a service or special product or a cloud service or whatever. Or as I mentioned, for the critical sectors, they have to do this for the availability of critical services. But as NIS2 requires enterprise resilience, the whole entire legal entity is affected, and scope gaps are not tolerated. So that means the delta here is an ISO certificate often covers only a fraction of the actual NIS2 attack surface. That means if you are to be, if you have to deliver supply chain security evidence to your customer, just that ISO certificate won't be enough. They cannot accept it because you have to prove, okay, you have this enterprise resilient approach at this moment. Then how you handle the risk. So those of you that know, for example, that do active risk management, well, it's of course a common treatment option to accept risks if they are maybe not economically viable. But now we are in the situation, there is a hard law that requires, for example, zero trust architecture in our networks, or that requires from us supply chain security. And we cannot say, yeah, we don't do that because it's too costly or whatever, it doesn't make sense. So there's no way you can accept a legally binding measure by not doing it. So that is a view that we need to see from a risk management perspective. That you can also not say, it would be like, you know, logistics companies would say, yeah, we don't stop at red traffic lights anymore, and we don't accept tempo speed limits because it costs us too much time, and you just can't do that. And that's the same now with your risk handling. The best effort approach that we use, I mean, if you look at information security management systems, and they focus on continuous improvement, and you can show whatever is your way that you one day want to reach a specific result. With NIS2 you can't do that anymore. There are mandatory results, you have to show them within time, otherwise there's a liability gap. Your top management is personally liable for the results, and not just to show a process how you get there. So it's a change of thinking that we are not that we are now in a mandatory environment. And also the audit quality has to change, not to prove just design and suitability of controls, like if you would do it, I took here the example like a SOC 2 Type 1 certification that you say, okay, a control exists and it does theoretically the job it should do, like a backup plan exists, but you need to show operational effectiveness. And that means when you have a backup concept, you need to also do restore tests and document and show that those restore tests work. So like you would do in a SOC 2 Type 2 audit and certification. So again, coming always back, just doing some certifications will not protect you against anything, right? And yeah, we also prepared the Slido for this one and just wanted to hear your feedback on how would your top management react today if an auditor told them they are personally liable for unmitigated risks. Would they be already aware of this, or are they, yeah, also not so much surprised about that, because that is also, from my personal experience, what we usually see in the field. That is, yeah, most common view is that, yeah, cybersecurity or information security is still an IT problem. But yeah, that's going to be a tough job to change that mindset, because it's not. I mean, if you remember the Allianz risk barometer and the goals of NIS2, this is now a board and a C-level issue. But also 29% are replying they're fully aware and actively managing it. So that gives hope. And 0% would be shocked. That's also quite promising. So there's hope we can move that into the right direction. There are a few words on the supply chain security, because that's also what I expected to be one of the most, say, yeah, or biggest blind spots. I call it's the indirect impact. So it's also for those organizations that do not fall directly under NIS2, they are now affected by, yeah, basically that domino effect. That means if you are in the supply chain of a regulated company, you have to make or you need to show verifiable information security scopes and or measures. Otherwise, you will be just sorted out of the supply chain. So you will use your market access. And that's a very fundamental thing for all, basically for the whole economy. And the consequences, because every company that is affected, they will not ignore the risk. So they will pass the pressure on contractually. And what it means is, well, there are different ways to do that. So you have to update your terms and conditions. So add the security addendum in your general terms and condition. You need to set up a supplier security program that they have to provide evidence that you cannot provide any contracts without a completed questionnaire or certificate, like an ISO 27001 TSAX or C5 or whatever certificate. And however, if you remember what I said earlier, even that does not give you the guarantee they're fully compliant with NIS2. So we would need to ask for more information, like a statement of applicability, and map this against the NIS2 controls. As you can see, this is going to be a big organizational effort to do that. And I would assume, at least looking to the customers that I talk to regularly, they're just not ready for this. They're not. They don't have the resources to make or to set up and control organization to control their supply chain. Yeah, and problem is we have to do it, and there are ways. Maybe wanted to show you one example on what I think will become increasingly important. So there is a group of services and out in the market, like security scoring providers, such as Black Kite, Security Scorecard, or BitSight. They basically assess companies' IT security from the outside. It's like an external attack surface management scan. So they do open source intelligence for security vulnerabilities. across all the companies, like open ports, outdated software, leaked logged-in credentials in the darknet, or outdated encryption standards, for example. And then you get a scoring, right? And I would say, even if you have not ever heard of these services, you already have a score. And I just encourage you to have a look at some of these solutions and look what your scoring is, because if you have customers and that face now the problem on how to manage my supply chain security, they will likely move to services like that to at least integrate it in the supply chain, because that is let's say, way of minimal effort to reach supply chain security compliance. I'm not saying it gives you all the information you need, but it gives you some glimpse of effectiveness. So if you see one of your suppliers have a ISO 27001 certification, and here he has a really bad rating of E or F, there must be something wrong with the effectiveness of the controls they do. So yeah, so that's just a thing that we wanted to share with you, that you must know, monitor, and manage your score. Otherwise, it could happen that you're weeded out because you don't fulfill the minimum score targets of your customers anymore. And I think a lot of these activities, I think nobody will, or most organizations do not have for the most organizations, it's not economically viable to have 2 or 3 people now to manage their supply chains. It's just from a cost perspective, it doesn't work, and you need people with certain skills to make these classifications. So I personally believe that this is a use case that will be automated, or can be automated pretty well by AI, large language models. So I think the current state where we are, like with Opus 4.6 or Gemini 3.1, are perfectly able already to send out questionnaires, to get the results, to analyze them, to send back questions on how these gaps should be closed. That is something I'm convinced will be one of the maybe first use cases in some companies, but that's something which can be automated quite well. We at Conscia think a lot about it, how we organize that. So if you want to discuss this idea or you like it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share my thoughts on this. There will be my email address at the end of the slides. So yeah, so just that on a side note, I think that is a way, when you start setting this up, don't try to avoid sending out hundreds of Excel questionnaires, or if you do so, try to automate it from the beginning. Otherwise, it's going to be a big mess. All right, moving from supply chain security to business continuity management, backup and recovery. So we set up a reality check on that. So imagine this scenario. Last night, a malware encrypted all your service. From 6 a.m. onwards, you start receiving calls at home from staff complaining that the IT systems have come to a halt. So yeah, just as a quick review, and we also prepared a Slido on that. We would like to get your feedback. Okay, how well are you prepared for such a situation? So is there a prioritized list for restarting the systems, which we often see as an issue, that if this is not happens, then you have a complete chaos, because everyone's at the IT manager's desk and wants his service booted at first. Not speaking of the dependencies, of the technical dependencies that you need to set up to start whatever system. Are the recovery targets covered in RTO and RPO times? Are your backups immutable? Do you do regular restore tests? Or some situations we also faced with some customers. How will you continue your operations even if you have a full backup if your if your hardware is seized by the police for investigations. So did we already start, Christina, the Slido?
Yes,
okay.
Slido is running. First answers are coming in.
Okay, good. So this is just to move ahead. This is a so interesting. So the testing. So people consider testing as one of the major impediments to where the recovery process may break down. Yeah, we see that also, of course, a lot. That's you're used to make recoveries from individual files, but a full scale restore test and the time pressure, the majority of organizations don't do because there's usually no time or resource to do it. Yeah, just don't want to go into the details on how a proper IT business continuity and resilience concept should look like. Just want to reach out to you that we at Conscia, I think most companies know us as a tech company, and we come with all kinds of technical solutions at this concept. But also here we in Germany, we developed a very substantial consulting competency and teams that we can support our customers with these concepts. Because before you start setting up let's say your backup technology and a backup solution, you really should go through this business impact analysis. Okay, what needs to run first after breakdown? How much is your recovery time objective? That means how much time can the organization stand to live without a process and the services that run this process consequently. And you need to find answer to these questions, because if your ERP system has to run after 4 hours, but you first need to download 2 terabytes of data from a cloud service, yeah, that just won't work, because just the downloads will take probably a couple of days, and that's why you need to align your business continuity, your backup strategy with your business, and then as a result you decide, okay, which technology I use for which kind of services. So that's a bit the idea here, and as I said, we at Conscia, we can offer you with these consulting services, not only implementing you a technical backup solution, but also working on those concepts, backup and recovery concepts, emergency manuals, because that's the foundation if you want to build a proper backup and recovery architecture. And yeah, NIS2 in practice, that is what are the expectations versus reality. So I showed, or I said at the beginning, that I think the intention of the law, of the directive, is really good, and but when it comes to reality, when it comes to implementation, what do we see from the market? What are people most complaining about? And we put those 4 topics here on that slide. The first one, we call it the audit tsunami. Supply chains are drowning in multi-page compliance questionnaires. Yeah, that's also, we have seen in your Slido response, we have this regulatory patchwork with 27 different national implementations instead of one harmonized law. Then we have the skill crisis. That means 24/7 incident response. You need the right people to do that, and I think that counts for all countries. We see a massive shortage of those experts, and we see, due to the high personal liability of the C-level, that in some organizations the focus of the management really shifts to personal management liability, as how they manage to be clean, rather than really focusing on an effective operational security. And what can we help you with? The Conscia answer. So we, for example, if you work with Conscia as a supplier, we can give you those mapped NIS2 reports. We are fully certified, and we are working on expanding our scopes on full organizations within the different countries. And we can give you with these mapped NIS2 reports that you, well, when you work with Conscia, you have it quite easy from a supply chain perspective. We have borderless SLAs. So as you know, Conscia offers pan-European managed services that we give you always the local compliance for your notification chain that you need, that you fulfill these requirements. And of course, we support you with managed resiliens. That means with the managed services we presented at the beginning, we provide the experts that you need, and you can out-task these solutions to our managed services. And with that kind of architecture, of course, it helps, gives the boardroom peace of mind, meaning that all the contractual notification are guaranteed that you meet your requirements within each and every country on that side. So to put it in this slide, how can Conscia support you with their security portfolio in bridging the NIS2 gap? That means we do NIS2 gap assessments, and that is something we recommend customers that are still at the beginning of their journey to make this assessment, that you see, okay, where are you today with your information security infrastructure versus the requirements of the NIS2 directive. We can support you with ISMS strategy and implementation. So for those of you that know Conscia from the past, that may be new, because as I said, you know us specifically as a tech company, but we're changing in a way, or we're adding more consulting capabilities that we also can support our customers with these topics. And yeah, we can support it with the critical service mapping and performing this all hazards risk approach. And for the IT business continuity management, data protection strategy, I showed you the other slide. That's also topics we can support you with. On the cyber defense architecture, of course, zero trust network access, that comes to our core DNA with our partners like Cisco, like Palo Alto Networks, for example, that can support you here with the design and implementation of those solutions. We have a broad range of offensive security services for pen testing, red and purple teaming, that we're happy to present you. And of course, that's where Conscia comes from the network infrastructure and the platform security. That is still, of course, a core part of our business. But in this new world of NIS2 compliance, of course, this is just one piece in the puzzle, and you need to consider all these others, of course, with the same importance. With managed detection on response, we have our 24/7 security monitoring and managed detection and response from our pan-European SOC. So some of you know that our SOC is located centrally in Slovenia, but Conscia Slovenia. But we have now analysts and operating under control of the SOC from the other Conscia countries too. For example, we have also German analysts working for the SOC. So this is now really a pan-European service, and we can support multiple languages on that. So that's something we are happy to present you in a more detailed way. And then we have the threat hunting and threat intelligence services that are crucial to meet the NIS2 requirements that are listed in this section 24. And as already mentioned, the guaranteed local notification SLRs, and we offer these expert incident response and digital forensic services. Hopefully you will never need them, but in case you do, that's where Conscia is a place where you can find them on a very high level. So that was basically what we wanted to share with you, that you get an idea that NIS2 compliance is a complex topic. It's manageable, it's a solvable problem We are happy to support you. It is not achieved by getting a certificate, but it's really the goal of the NIS2 regulation is building up an immune system. And as I said, in that way, I really like it because that is exactly what we need to do. And we need active protection in continuous operation. And yeah, basically that's it. I don't know, Christina, do we have any further questions received?
No questions, but people are already starting the survey. And after the webinar, you will get an email with the recording and also link to the landing page where you can download the slides.
Perfect. Thanks, Christina. And then I hope the session was interesting, informative for you. We would be happy to receive your feedback. And as I said, if you want to discuss any specific topics like AI supported supply chain security or whatever, feel free to reach me here under my email address. And of course, reach out if you have already contact persons within Conscia, reach out to them. We also talk internally. And yeah, then basically, thank you for your participation. And yeah, I wish you a great day. Bye-bye.